Just the facts, ma'am. That quote's been attributed to Sergeant Joe Friday from the old TV show Dragnet. And while that's actually not what he said, the point of this was when he did his witness interviews that he wanted just a straight up retelling of the information to leave emotion completely out of the interview. But is that really the best way to conduct a witness interview? Hi, I'm Mike Corwin, and I spent 30 years conducting witness interviews for litigation and also internal investigations, including in employment for things like workplace violence. If you're interested in learning more about conducting witness interviews, I've got a great resource for you. It's my 6 steps to more effective witness interviews, and you'll find a link for it in the description below. All right, let's talk about emotions and their place in witness interviews. Now, the first thing to understand is that people are not robots, they're human, and that emotions are part of the way that we remember things. As a matter of fact, there's some science behind that says, in fact, that people will recall information better when there is emotion involved, and they can remember the emotions that they experienced at the time of the incident. Now, when we do witness interviews, and I don't care if it's for employment, let's say it's a sex harassment situation, or if it's litigation, let's say somebody's witnessed a catastrophic accident, the reality is you're going to bring them back emotionally to where they were at the time that they witnessed this incident. You're basically giving them a version of PTSD. Now, I used to do a lot of really hardcore criminal defense homicide cases, and I worked on a lot of tragic cases on the civil side as well. And let's face it, when you're dealing with people in a workplace setting, there's all kinds of fears. There's fears about losing paychecks. There's fears about the interpersonal dynamics of the workplace and how being a witness in a situation can actually affect them. And so emotion is there. It's a definite part of it. And when we try to remove emotion from the interview process, the old just the facts, ma'am, we're actually lessening our ability to get good information. We don't want to do that. So there's a couple of things to remember about emotions when we're talking about a witness interview. And the underlying element here is that emotions, particularly when they're connected to the emotions during the incident, actually are a great way to help people recall what they experienced, right? We don't want to separate that out. We don't want to remove that from the interview process. We actually want to embrace it. Now, there's ways of doing that. We don't want to force emotion on people. We actually want them to bring themselves to that place all on their own without us making a show of it or forcing it or making it too prominent from our perspective. Now, here's how we actually begin that process. We talk about when we first start up the witness interview, we always want to build rapport with a witness. It's probably the most important aspect of a successful witness interview. And when we're doing that, when we're building rapport, we're making that connection on an emotional level. We're not making it on an intellectual level, on a cerebral level. We're trying to make a connection, and that connection comes from here. It doesn't come from here. And that's the first place. By doing that, we're letting them know that it's okay, that emotions play a part of this, and that things can be on a more human level. Now, a couple of things to really think about as we do it is you kind of have to give them permission to go with these emotional feelings, right? We don't want to shut them down. We don't want to shut them off. So one of the things that I like to do is to actually reference that at the very beginning and say, hey, listen, I know that what you experienced was a pretty difficult thing, and I just want you to know that I'm aware of that, and that I'm sorry that I'm putting you through this, but it's unfortunately just a part of the process, and that you're probably going to experience some of these emotions again. And I just want you to know that, hey, I'm sorry for that, but it is a pretty normal process to go through when you're being interviewed for something like this, or when you're talking. We don't even want to say interviewed, but when we're talking about something and you're having to kind of relive it, which is what I'm really asking you to do. Next thing to do is to let the witness go where the witness wants to go. That's where the emotions will really come in handy. And when we do that, you really want to kind of let the witness take the lead on the narrative. And so basically, what I like to say for that is to say, what made you realize something was happening? Now at that point, that's when you're going to be quiet and you're going to let the witness do all of the talking. And you want that witness to really feel the experience. Be back in their head emotionally what it felt like for them as they start to recount this. Now, this may be difficult to do, but you really don't want to interrupt this process. Yes, they may go off on tangents. They may not cover all of the specific things that you want to cover for your interview, but you can get there later. For now, you want the witness to experience being there and to recount what they saw, what they did with very little interruption. If you need to do a break to get some clarification, that's fine. If you need to have them go back over something, that's fine too. But the more they talk and the more they sit with the feelings that they experienced at the time that they witnessed it, the better their recall is going to be. The more effective a witness they're going to be, the better quality the information is going to be for you. And remember that information is a tool. It helps to make decisions. If it's in litigation, is this a fact pattern that you want to pursue? Is this beneficial to your theory of the case? If it's an employment situation, are you verifying an allegation that somebody brought to your attention? Did this situation occur within the workplace? And as a result of that, if it did, what steps do you need to do to A, make sure it never happens again, and B, in terms of discipline? Okay, so now one of the things that we want to do is to actually kind of recreate the scene. So as we come in after they've done their initial follow-up, you say something like, let me make sure that I understand all that you've told me. So let me take you back. So you were sitting in your car at the traffic light when all of a sudden you saw a car come screaming through the intersection, and the car in front of you had already started up because that car had a green light. Go ahead and kind of paraphrase it. That gets them to come back into it, to get that to that emotional place, and also to kind of start to add a little bit more detail. So you're kind of focusing them, but you're doing it by placing them back into the situation. And then again, you're going to be quiet. Now, as they recall this and they provide more detail, that's when you're going to say, okay, so let me back you up for a second. So what you're saying is this. Then you paraphrase it back and let them provide even more detail to it. But notice how you're not interrupting their flow. You're letting them stay in that place where the emotions were and where they experienced that. Because again, that's what's going to really help with the recall on this. Because sometimes I remember when I used to do litigation work, I could be brought into a case a couple of years after the incident occurred, sometimes even more than that, and it could even be in preparation for going to trial, and let's say the interviews had been done a long time ago, or nobody had interviewed this witness, or maybe just law enforcement had at the scene. So you do need that recall. You need to bring that back up, and getting them into that emotional place is really about the most beneficial way that you're going to do that. Once you've done that, you also have to remind them that it's natural to feel those emotions, and you can say, hey, do you need a break if it gets to be very heavy emotional? But you also can say to them, I'm really sorry that I had to make you relive this, but understand that that's just kind of part of the process, and that it helps for me to get a better sense of what you experienced personally as you went through this. Once you've said that to them, then that's when you're going to say, hey, is there anything else that you think that I should be aware of? Keep in mind they've been sitting in that place, and that you've given them approval to re-experience their emotions, to feel those emotions, to be very human. And then when you do that and you say to them, hey, is there anything else that you think I should know about? You're going to open that door a little further, let them go a little bit deeper into what they experienced. And at that point, they're going to go ahead and give you that last little bits of information that you need. Interviews are not science. I know that sometimes we want to treat them that way. There's a little bit of art, yes, a little bit of science, but really what an interview is about connection. It's about your rapport with the witness. It's about your witness trusting you enough to feel like themselves and to put themselves in that place where they can recount the information to you. I've got a great guide for you. It's my 6 steps to more effective witness interviews, and it can really help you to get your witness interviews to where you want them to be, so that you feel like when you're conducting them, they're the most effective they can be. And remember, information is a tool, and that tool helps you to make decisions, or helps whoever needs to be able to make decisions, whether it's a case or whether it's an internal investigation about what to do next. And you'll find a link to it in the description below.